Underway for the SAA crew member who played a key role in the evacuation of South Africans from Wuhan City in China in March. You'll remember Nakedi Ntshane passed away on Sunday following a cancer-related illness. Now, our reporter Chiselda Lewis is covering this for us. She's in Atteridgeville in Pretoria. Let's cross to her live. Chiselda, a very good morning to you. What are you witnessing there this morning?
Well, a very good morning to you, Blaine, live from Atteridgeville, just outside Pretoria, where the funeral service of one of the SAA crew members, who was, of course, as you indicated, of the evacuation of 112 South Africans from Wuhan City, China. You would recall that was the then epicenter. In March, passed away. Nakedi Ntshane is being buried today. She passed away on Sunday following a cancer-related illness. And just shortly before you came to us, Blaine, very emotional crew members who were also part of that very daunting, risky task are also here today to pay tribute to her. I understand that the crew members who went with her to Wuhan City to evacuate those more than 100 South Africans, here to pay a tribute to her, together with other family members, very strict protocols. The family is also called for in terms of social distancing, and also the mourners to wear masks here. And in the next few moments, the body of Nakedi Ntshane will leave her home to her final resting place. And, she's really considered as one of the heroines that embarked on that task. You recall that President Cyril Ramaphosa had really lauded the crew that decided to be part of those who would go to Wuhan City, the then epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak, and evacuate our citizens from there. Over the past few days, I've been speaking to family and friends who say that they were very, very afraid when she decided to be part of that crew. But she's been described as a person who was very determined, who was very ambitious, and somebody who was a fighter, we understand, from some of those paying tribute to her here this morning. Her uncle, just during the week, describing her as a true patriot who served her country, no matter the risk that was involved. Those sentiments also shared by some other members of the family. And Blaine, you'd recall that South Africa had begun evacuating its citizens from Wuhan after there had been calls for assistance. You would know that South Africa is still in the process currently, as the world grapples with the coronavirus, is still evacuating some of its other citizens from other areas that have also been affected. But I think what has come at great grief to the family, which they've also sought to rectify, Blaine, is that there had been some social media posts that had gone around where there was an insinuation that given that she was part of the crew that had traveled to Wuhan City, that she had contracted the virus. The family says that is simply not true. She passed on as a result of a cancer-related illness.
Chiselda,
I'll just pause there for a second, Blaine. Go ahead, Blaine.
You know, when the crew was heading to Wuhan City, the epicenter at that time of COVID-19, those who were watching those visuals of this crew leaving had a sense of maybe trepidation, fear, anxiety for those people who were heading to Wuhan. But take us, you covered the story in great detail. What sort of stories did you hear? What did you witness with regards to those brave men and women who decided to take up this challenge with great courage, with great valor, the audacity to go there and say, these are our citizens, we need to bring them back home? Did they feel as much trepidation as those who might have been watching from afar?
Unfortunately, Blaine, I had been at the OR Tambo International Airport when the crew had been leaving for Wuhan City. And you'd recall that President Cyril Ramaphosa was there to send the crew off. And he basically lauded them as, true patriots and who would basically, be the ones who would partake in this extreme journey of not knowing what. You'd recall the world itself had started shutting down. And it was this crew, including the deceased who's being laid here to rest today, who participated in that daunting task. So as she's being laid to rest here today, she is had described someone who gave everything for her country. She didn't have to participate in that very risky journey to Wuhan City, but she did. We understand, and we understand from her colleagues as well as her family and her friends that is exactly who she was. She was that
in service of others. And those are the sentiments, Blaine, that have been shared here. And when you speak about the feeling of others, one of the tributes that was also paid to her here was by one of the flight attendants who was also on that journey with her. And she basically described her as someone who was very ambitious and was very determined. So a lot of tributes are here today for someone who played their part. I recall as well, Blaine, when that aircraft had also touched down in Polokwane, had also been there. And there was a sense of pride, a sense of relief, especially from the families of those, including Nakedi Ntshane, who's been buried here today, when they touched back down in South Africa, and not by themselves, touched down with more than 100 South Africans who had been stranded there. And I recall during the course of the week, her sister, while speaking about the journey that she had traveled, he asked a question and said, how is it that someone who didn't even know who those more than 100 South Africans were would decide to risk their own lives and participate in such a risky journey? So it paints a picture of the kind of sacrifice, in particular, Blaine, at a time where the entire world is battling the coronavirus, that there were these South Africans, these SAA crew members, who saw it fit and courageous to embark on that journey, not knowing what they would find, to Wuhan, and fetch fellow countrymen and women who'd been stranded there with loved ones who were concerned about their safety here in South Africa. So this kind of send-off truly befitting for all of those who participated in this journey. You know, Blaine, sometimes they say we live our entire life not having done anything of significance. And the mourners here today say she's fortunate. She has done what most people would not have achieved in their entire lives. In other words, it was a life that was richly lived, not just for herself, but also in service of others. I'll pause for a second there, Blaine. I think any moment now we should be leaving. The church service should be finishing any moment now. I'll just pause for a second.
Blaine, I am sure you are still with us at this time.
Yes, Chiselda, we're still with you. If you just joined us, folks, you're watching the funeral service of an SAA crew member who played a key role in the evacuation of South Africans from Wuhan City in China in March. Nakedi passed away on Sunday following a cancer-related illness. And, Chiselda Lewis, you were just saying what kind of a person she was, and the crew that she was with in terms of taking this journey to Wuhan City to bring back our citizens. It really talks to what people would say, danger is real, but fear is a choice. And I guess information will help us in determining that choice, isn't it? Talk to us about some of the misinformation, Chiselda, that led up to this funeral service with regards to the cause of Nakedi's death.
All right, Blaine, before I do that, I'm going to bring in one of the SAA crew members who travelled. You did not travel with her, all right.
One of the supervisors.
You're one of the supervisors, all right. Fortune Chiselda was one of the supervisors of that particular trip, is that correct?
Well, for South African Airways.
For South Africa, all right. I mean, it must have been a very daunting task. Condolences to you. And I heard you describe her as a very courageous woman.
Absolutely. She was extremely, extremely courageous. And she was a good example of what a woman should be. She was a mother. She was a cabin crew member. She was a pilot in the making. She was a daughter. She was a sister. So, yes, it was absolutely... We were devastated when we heard the news. Yes.
And what was it like? I heard one of the mourners say that you often live your life having done nothing of significance, but she did something, not just for herself, but for others whom she didn't even know, to evacuate South Africans in Wuhan. To prepare a trip of that nature must have been absolutely harrowing because you did not know what would lie on the other side.
Absolutely. When I think back on when we were getting the crew together for the trip, she was actually on leave and she volunteered and said, look, I'm coming in, I'm going to do this. And like I said earlier, that she had actually had training. She had flown somewhere to gain her hours as a commercial pilot. And she came running through those doors to do her medicals, and she just didn't want to miss this trip at all because she said, you know what, I need to bring our people back home. She didn't care what the risk was. She just wanted to be part of that team. And they were not briefed as to what would be happening just yet. From the onset, with very little information, she volunteered and gave herself over.
And how would you want the country to remember her? This is someone who gave selflessly. And many say, there are not many who would have given that kind of sacrifice. And of course, as we applaud her, we applaud all the others as well who had embarked on that unknown journey. How would you want South Africa to remember her and even others who are still with us today who embarked on basically a journey of the unknown, if I can put it that way again?
I would love for her to be remembered as a courageous woman. She was beautiful on the inside and out. she did whatever it took to get the job done. And here it was exactly that example. She left her family behind. She left her son behind. You know, that's how selfless she was. And they didn't know how many days they would be in quarantine for. But she decided that whatever it takes, I'm going to do it. And she did it. And once again, like I say, for me, she's an example of what every young person or every woman should aspire to be. There's no such thing as it's too much. Like I say, she would come back from international flights and then go and carry on with her commercial pilot training. She'd then come home and be a mother. She would then be a church woman. You know, she was all of that in one. So for me, her bravery, her determination, her ambition, like I say, she was beautiful and out, and that's how I'd love for her to be remembered.
Thank you very much indeed for speaking to us, and condolences to all of you. And in particular, for all of you who are embarked on that journey. I don't think I speak for myself alone. I speak for many South Africans who are communicating with us during this time and have lauded her as a very brave woman who did for others what most, I guess, would not have. And of course, together with the rest of your colleagues. Thank you very much indeed for your time. One of the organizers at SAA, if I could put it that way, were in charge of that trip to Wuhan City in China, which was then the epicenter, Blaine, you would recall. Fortune Chiselda, who was describing her as ambitious, as a fighter, and, you know, calling on all young men, women, humans in general, you know, to emulate the kind of person that Nakedi Ntshane was, in the sense that you give to others in such a way that you don't expect anything in return. And just shortly after all of that, she is now no more, after having served her country and basically embarked on this risky journey to evacuate people that she did not even know. If that is not service, then, Blaine, I certainly don't know what is. Thank you very much, Fortune. We'll let you go at the moment. Blaine, we're expecting in the next few moments for the body of Nakedi Ntshane to leave the home here for the gravesite, and I understand that that very crew that went with her to Wuhan City will then carry her from the outside of the house where you can see and into the hearse.
Yes.
That is parked just in front of the house here. So you'll hear, Blaine, lots more tribute pertaining to that. And I think one thing that particularly stands out is this certainly was a very brave woman. A very brave woman who, I think, Blaine, even at a time when there was a lot of uncertainty amongst ourselves who had been covering the story as they left for Wuhan, you know, I have to tell you about a moment when I looked at them and I thought, themselves and go and evacuate South Africans who they don't even know. There are very few who would embark on a task like that. But it's true. They said she was called for this, and she was determined. And even though her family had raised reservations about her traveling to Wuhan City, determined to go. And the family had no choice but to say, if that's what you love, then you may go. So I guess the sentiments of determination, that's where that comes in, Blaine. Determination, strength are all things that one can certainly justify as the character of woman who is being laid to rest here today. And also quite, Blaine, heartwarming that many of her colleagues have come out here. I must point out that the family's been very strict on ensuring that in terms of the protocols, social distancing, and everyone is wearing masks here.
Yes.
We're also standing just quite far away from everyone my SABC colleague Tulo Munari standing a bit closer so that we're all able to ensure that, we maintain that social distance given the circumstances. And others would say perhaps the send-off would be much bigger. But remember the protocols dictate currently that no more than 50. So very close family and friends paying tribute here today to Nakedi Ntshane, who was one of the SAA crew members who was part of the evacuation of over 100 South Africans from Wuhan City in China. She passed away on Sunday following a cancer-related illness.
Chiselda, we are currently looking at a picture of this brave woman on our screens at the moment, Nakedi. And, just picking up from what I've heard you speaking about and the guest you had there, it seems that Nakedi understood that no one is safe unless everybody is safe, isn't it? Our lives are interlinked. Our health is interlinked. And if you are taking risks for yourself, you're also taking risks for me, for my child, for my parent, and vice versa. If I do that the same, I will be taking a risk for you. It seems that she understood that, putting others first is so important in dealing with a pandemic like this.
And just a moment, we will speak of the crew leaders who was also part of those who led this group of SAA crew to Wuhan City. I understand he's also suffered a double blow. He's also returning from a funeral of a loved one and is now here also to pay his last respects to his colleague. And I remember speaking to him during the course of the week as well, where he indicated that at the time that the aircraft had landed in Wuhan, there was a song that they sang, which part of the crew had also sung just a few moments ago, just before you had crossed to us. And you would know it does say Amakwala Chechele Murao, which means, Amakwala, those who were scared to the back, if I could loosely translate that way. And a clear indication that they were not at all. Let me just bring him in here, and I see him as the crew leader on to with Nakedi.
As he has also gone to bury one of his loved ones. I'm going to bring him in just very shortly. Elias Mazibila, who's the leader of the Wuhan team. We're live at the moment. Elias, I'm really sorry to just catch you as you're coming in. I understand you have double tragedy yourself,
yes,
but you're here today to pay tribute to your colleague.
I have to be here. Just came from my uncle's funeral right now. To be here. Just came from my uncle's funeral right now, and I'm joining these guys here to come and pay tribute to the hero of South Africa. As I said earlier on, this is not just a normal cabin crew member. This is a hero. This is a South African fallen hero, and I'm here. I have to be here as a leader of the troop. I have the army guys as well here. I've got Major Shkwambani, which is here as well, who is our leader as part of the military, and he's just also they just have to come and say goodbye to our hero that we're with.
I'm sure you will see the crew, part of the military crew that was also part. Remember the Defense Minister, Nosiviwe Mapisa Ngakula, at the airport when we were there during that standoff with President Cyril Ramaphosa. So also you could see the caliber of woman she was, together, of course, with the other crew that had embarked on that journey. Part of the military is also here today to pay tribute to her. I know there's certain protocols in the media, and I'm not allowed to speak to some of them. So I'll see perhaps if we could get a word or two, but we'll show you some of those visuals. Elias, if we could just move towards this direction. How important is it for South Africans to remember the caliber of women such as Nakedi Ntshane?
Nakedi Ntshane, before I even go on, we have a leader. This is one of our managers that is around us. He's already spoken to you, and I want South Africa to remember this woman as a woman of COVID-31, the woman that we cannot compare with any other person, a hero, a South African hero. Just to remember her with it. A South African hero, just to remember her with it.
Thank you very much, Elias. I really appreciate it. In the next few moments, you will see some members of the South African National Defence Force who were part of that trip to Wuhan, who have also arrived here at the funeral now. And they're, of course, here to pay tribute to her. These are all the individuals who were obviously part of that task, and they're here to say their final goodbyes.
Chiselda, I just at this time want to welcome our SABC3 viewers. If you just joined us, you're watching live visuals of the funeral service of an SAA crew member who played a key role in the evacuation of South Africans from Wuhan City in China in March. Nakedi Ntshane passed away on Sunday following a cancer-related illness. Our reporter Chiselda Lewis is there in Atteridgeville, Pretoria. Chiselda, for those who've just joined us, just describe for us what we've been witnessing this morning.
There are not many, I think, just generally around the world who sacrifice themselves and embark on a journey like Nakedi Ntshane together with the rest of the colleagues who embarked on that journey to Wuhan City in China, not knowing what they would find there. And they embarked on that journey, and they were basically there to evacuate more than 100 South Africans who had pleaded for help. At that time, you would recall, the world was in shock about what was unexplained, the coronavirus, something that had a gripping impact on the world itself. These pictures that you're seeing at the moment, Blaine, you will see these are also members of the South African Defence Force, who are part of those who had travelled. All right, in the next few moments, the body of Nakedi Ntshane will be taken out of the house. You see members of the South African National Defence Force have also arrived, and they will form now this guard of honour.
And Blaine, you would forgive me, and I'm sure you will understand that the protocols which I need to follow would include just giving that moment of silence as her body is taken from inside the home to outside. I'll just wait a moment for that. And it really speaks to the caliber of woman she was, together with her colleagues, giving immense sacrifice. I recall someone had showed me yesterday a certificate that President Cyril Ramaphosa had given to each and every crew member who had embarked on that journey to Wuhan. This was after they had returned. So there was a great sense of appreciation. All right, there you see the SAA crew members who were part of that journey on board that flight to Wuhan to evacuate the South Africans there, and who returned to the country with our citizens. Here they are to say their last farewells to their colleague. And in the next few moments, we'll expect her then to be taken from here to her final resting place. Family, friends, colleagues, you can really see she was someone who was dearly loved. Well, Blaine, the final goodbyes from very close family members there, you would see the last viewing of their loved one. Very emotional. I heard a bit earlier on she is survived by her grandmother, including her son, and at this stage, I would presume that might be her grandmother. And I can see a light moment also shared there. Her colleagues are describing her as someone who's great to be around, just great. And I know that there are many South Africans who are also watching this at home and are wondering who is this woman. So this woman today, Blaine, I'm going to pause for a second there as I see now final preparations are being made to ensure that the coffin is brought from inside the house to the hearse here. All right, Blaine, here members of the South African Airways. All right, Blaine, I'm going to just be quiet for a moment there as her body leaves her home.
Morena o ne a neile hamba hamba kahle mkhonto wemkhonto khonto wesi hamba hamba khonto wesi hamba we hamba wemba sithi hamba wena sithi hamba wemba umkhonto wesizwe sithi hamba wena umkhonto wesizwe. Can you just walk?
All right, Blaine, tribute there to Nakedi Ntshane as she heads now to her final resting place. Not everyone will go to the gravesite just to ensure that, of course, they maintain some of the protocols. Many others will remain and disperse now. Not everyone will go to the gravesite, and there were continuous calls, of course, by the family. On arrival here, everyone was being sanitized. Everyone is wearing masks, and I will try and see if I can't bring in one of the South African National Defence Force members who were with her. Let me try, I think it is Colonel Shikwambane.
Yes.
At this time. I'm not sure if we are able to speak to Colonel, is it Colonel Shikwambane?
No, Major Shikwambane.
Major Shikwambane. Are we able to speak to you, sir, just about what you experienced?
Just to give you 2 minutes. Major Shikwambane is a doctor as well that was testing us while we were there.
Oh, you were the doctor who was also testing those who were in Wuhan.
Yes.
Such a critical role that you have played, sir. Today you're here to say goodbye to someone whom you served with, because she certainly did serve.
Yes, it's really a sad moment indeed, because we didn't just become people who were working together, but we became a family as time went. As you know, we spent 2 weeks at the Ranch Hotel. So we bonded so much, we kind of like became too personal with each other. We knew each other, our struggles and everything. We were there to support them medically, and we were under the leadership. I was the second, we were under the leadership of Colonel Mdujo at that time, who's unfortunately not here today due to other commitments. But they've sent their sincere condolences as well to the family and to everyone. Yes.
Thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate your time. I know you're part of the Guard of Honor that is also forming here just outside the home of Nakedi Ntshane. And Blaine, you can really see the Major General Shikwambane, who we just spoke to now, is someone who, he was part of the crew. He tested the crew just before they left. He tested them before they left Wuhan City to make sure that they were fine, because the territory that they were threading on was extremely dangerous. So today, a demonstration of kindness, camaraderie, and true patriotism by colleagues who are here to say goodbye to their colleague, their friend, their family member, someone who served. We understand today from all the tributes that have been paid to someone who served, who basically lived her life in service of others. The hearse is going to make its way here again, and as a protocol would have it, Blaine, I'll just give that a moment as well for this Guard of Honor as well. That, of course, is standing just behind. Let me, as it moves now. Blaine, just very close family and friends heading to the cemetery for the final resting place as you hear the sound of "I am going home to die no more."
Chiselda, her family must have been going through a gamut of emotions over the last 2 months or so, from anxiety as she was about to embark on this journey, this mission, to extreme pride when she came back all safe and sound and the mission was without incident, to extreme melancholy at her passing. How's the family digesting all that has happened over the past 2 months as we wrap things up?
Blaine, it's obviously going to be extremely difficult. It has been extremely difficult for them because they indicated that her passing was truly untimely. They did not expect it. She was full of life. She didn't have any aches. She didn't have any pains, and they expected her to be with them for a very long time. But there is one thing, a great sense of pride on the part of the family, who say that she was truly somebody who lived her life to the fullest. And one can certainly say that is what Nakedi Ntshane did. And by true demonstration of the numbers of people, of course not all of them, I mean the street on the other side, people are maintaining a social distance, and as you come into the family home, everyone is being sanitized. But you can get a sense of everyone wanting to be part of this moment to send her off. As someone who did so much, not just for herself, the sentiment that clearly has really reverberated here was how selfless she was. And that can certainly be demonstrated or be seen by the sacrifice that she and her colleagues had made in service of this country to go and fetch people they did not know who had found themselves in harm. So if that is not a demonstration of someone who truly served others and liked to do things for other people, then I certainly don't know what would be. So from the military personnel who I spoke to just a few moments ago, who say that they spent a lot of time with her. The Major General Shikombane, who I spoke to a few moments ago, who was the doctor who had tested them before they left for Wuhan to make sure that they were of sound health, and tested them again as they left Wuhan to come back to South Africa. Remember, they'd also gone into quarantine. So this is someone who had left a young son, knowing that the journey itself to Wuhan City would be long, but also when you return, you would then have to spend more time away from your family in quarantine, because obviously the government needed to ensure that each and every one of them had not returned having been infected with the virus. So great sacrifice, certainly. And I must echo the words of President Cyril Ramaphosa in that in particular times like these, you know, the South African National Defence Force and all those who embarked on this journey are not just individuals, soldiers who would serve in war, but would serve on issues pertaining to development. And this was certainly that kind of journey that they had embarked on. It was a different kind of war, a war against the coronavirus to ensure that our people, our citizens, were evacuated from that area which was then the epicenter of the coronavirus. And to be able to do that without expecting anything in return is certainly something to be lauded here today. And I think many South Africans, from what we've seen on social media and everywhere else, have really indeed passed their condolences, saying that she should rest in peace. Blaine.
Selfless service, one would say, Chiselda, and they say leadership is all about accountability and consistency and caring for others. And I guess Nakedi embodied those qualities. She was a leader in her field. Chiselda Lewis, we appreciate your reporting. Thank you very much indeed. And may her soul rest in peace. Quick break. More news next.